quiet Wednesday in early March. One of those English mornings that can't decide if it's still winter or not. The rain had come and gone. The air was grey. Isabel was making toast in the kitchen. Sophie, her daughter, was in the lounge, watching television in her usual pink pajamas. Everything looked ordinary. Miss Clark was new, hired only a week before. She spoke to Sophie like an adult, not unkind, just precise. And Sophie, quiet, observant, 3.5 years old, had taken to her in a cautious way. She didn't laugh as much, but she listened, followed directions, kept her shoes lined up. Isabel thought that was a sign of discipline, at first. That Wednesday, she noticed the bruise. It was small, just beneath Sophie's left upper arm. Isabel crouched, gently touching the skin.
Sophie, sweetheart, how did you get this?
The child looked down and said nothing, only that silence. That night, Isabel didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling and counted every reason not to worry. So the next morning, Isabel ordered 3 hidden cameras, small, motion-activated, disguised as plug-in diffusers. She wanted truth. By Monday evening, she had it. Monday, 8:37 a.m. Sophie is in the lounge, still in her pink pajamas. She's lying on the rug, playing with plastic animals. Her posture is small, folded in on itself. Miss Clark enters the frame. She's carrying a cup of tea and a folder. At first, it looks harmless. Then, she leans down and says something to the child, inaudible but sharp. Sophie looks up, startled, then back at her animals. Miss Clark takes the toys away. Just takes them. Sophie doesn't cry. Monday, 14:12. Sophie has just finished her lunch, half-eaten porridge in a ceramic bowl. Miss Clark lifts the spoon again. Sophie shakes her head. "No more," she whispers. And that's when the shift happens. Miss Clark grabs her chin, holds it firmly. Sophie tries to pull back, but she can't.
"You'll finish it,"
she says, her voice steady, not raised, and then comes the slap. Not cinematic, not dramatic, just one flat-handed motion to the side of the child's head. A pause. Sophie eats in silence. Isabel watched it all. That night, she sat at the kitchen table until well past midnight. The clippers were still in the drawer, the ones her husband used to use before he shaved it all off for convenience. She plugged them in, watched the charging light turn red, then green. The next morning, she made no plans, just waited. Friday, noon. Miss Clark entered the lounge to collect her handbag. Isabel was waiting.
"Would you mind staying a bit longer today?"
she asked. Miss Clark smiled.
"Of course. Sit down, please."
Miss Clark paused.
Everything all right?
Just sit.
The midday sun filtered through the blinds in stripes, casting long shadows on the floor. A low hum filled the space from the clippers in Isabel's hand. They buzzed like a threat that didn't need explanation. Miss Clark sat in the center of the room. She looked at the machine, then at Isabel, and said nothing. Perhaps she already knew. Isabel didn't look at her. She simply stepped behind the woman and placed her free hand gently, almost tenderly, on Miss Clark's shoulder. Then, with the other hand, she brought the clippers to the back of her neck. The clippers caught slightly, tugging through thick strands. A sheet of brown hair slid down Miss Clark's back, landing softly on the rug. The second pass was cleaner. By the third, her scalp began to show, pale and untouched, like the underside of something hidden for years. Isabel said nothing. She moved like someone scrubbing a stain, not with anger, with purpose. Hair fell in clumps. The pile grew quickly, evidence accumulating like dust in an untouched room. Miss Clark didn't move, only her jaw clenched. Sophie inched forward, silent, still holding her rabbit. She didn't seem afraid. The sound of the clippers filled everything. It drowned out the ticking clock. It drowned out the world. The sound of control being taken away, one strip at a time. When it was done, Isabel switched the clippers off and placed them on the side table. The silence was sudden, dense. She stepped in front of Miss Clark and stared.
You'll leave
She said quietly.
today if I ever hear your name near another child, any child. I'll release the footage, every minute of it.
Miss Clark nodded once, just once. Her scalp shone under the ceiling light. She looked, for the first time, like someone unsure of who she was. Miss Clark never came back. She left quietly. No farewell, no protest, no apology. But silence isn't the same as closure, and forgetting isn't healing. Isabel went about her days like nothing had happened. But in the evenings, especially when Sophie was asleep, something shifted. She would find herself staring at the drawer where the clippers were stored. Not out of pride, not regret, just gravity, like the object had taken on a weight larger than its shape. Sophie changed too. Not dramatically, but she started humming again. She slept deeper, ate more. The shadows under her eyes faded, but now when she drew pictures, they were different. They used to be all bunnies and stars. Now they were faces, hairless ones. The next morning, Sophie asked one question.
Mommy, did she cry after she left?
Isabel thought for a long time, then answered.
No.
Sophie nodded, as if that explained everything, then went back to her cereal. Because what do you say to a child who has seen someone punished that way? What do you say when your child has watched justice unfold, not in a courtroom, not in a lecture, but in the same room where she naps?
In the weeks that followed, Isabel spoke to no one about it. She kept the footage, never deleted, never opened again. Some things, she thought, are better left in the dark, but they still hum quietly, like a machine that never fully powers down. The chair remained. She didn't touch it, didn't move it back to the corner, didn't let Sophie sit on it either. It had changed. It was no longer a chair. It was an echo, a witness. And like all witnesses, it demanded space. On the fourth morning, Isabel carried it out to the shed. She placed it at the back, next to a box of unused Christmas decorations. Closed the door, didn't lock it. Some things don't need locking to haunt. She thought Sophie might ask about the chair. She didn't. But one afternoon, while coloring, she drew it. A small square with 4 legs, and beside it, a woman with no face, just a round head, covered in tiny falling lines, like rain, like hair. Isabel didn't comment. She just sat beside her and filled in the sky blue. Time passed, slowly, quietly. Sophie grew. She asked fewer questions. She sang more. Sometimes Isabel wondered, did she do the right thing? Was it punishment? Was it justice? Was it simply rage dressed in discipline? But the questions didn't matter anymore, because the act had already taken root in Sophie, in the house, in herself. Just a pair of clippers, a single chair, and a child who saw it all and learned something she'd never unlearn. They say some lessons must be taught, but this one taught itself.
and it taught quietly, like a whisper behind the walls.